Labour London Mayor Sadiq Khan has called for a mobility agreement with the EU so young Britons can move freely to and from other European countries. That means that the Labour Mayor of London supports either a bespoke new scheme on free movement for a certain age group or changes to post-Brexit visa rules. He criticised the Tory government's extreme hard Brexit and even appeared to hit out at Labour's Omerta or Pact of Silence, preventing the party from discussion of potential economic reintegration with Brussels. Mr. Khan, who's seeking a third term in May's mayoral election, said re-entering the customs union should be on the table when the Brexit deal with the EU comes up for review in 2024. The capital has been particularly harmed by Brexit, he said in a statement first reported by The Observer. But he makes it easy for him. It's not so easy to join just the customs union and the single market. The government's hard Brexit has done damage right across London, and it's young people who have been hardest hit in so many ways, he said. Not only is it more difficult for young people to move abroad for work, but the government's wrong-headed decision to leave the Erasmus scheme has made it much harder for students to study abroad too. I'm clear that I'd be supportive of a youth mobility scheme which would benefit us economically, culturally and socially. While the UK may no longer be part of the EU, London is and always will be a European city, he said. The mayor wants young people to be able to study, travel and fill vacancies in key sectors of the economy, such as hospitality, which has historically relied on EU workers and has faced staff shortages. Earlier on Saturday, Mr. Khan said, "Let's have the conversation about steps to align with the bloc." He told the Fabian Society conference in London, "I'm not saying today we should rejoin the European Union. What I'm saying is that Shadow Foreign Secretary David Lammy is onto something when he's saying we should have a closer relationship with the European Union." He then suggested there is a code of silence, meaning that you can't talk about being close to the European Union, joining the single market, joining the customs union. He said the economic cost of this extreme hard Brexit is huge, pointing to a Cambridge econometric study which found that it has already cost the UK economy £140 billion and London £30 billion. Mr. Khan also said Rishi Sunak's government is using its Rwanda deportation plan in the same way they used Brexit as a deflection of all the problems they have caused to their country. He called for the Labour Party to speak up on the benefits of immigration and diversity. Also, at the think tank's gathering, Shadow Northern Ireland Secretary Hilary Benn touted the benefits of a stronger alliance with the European Union amid growing geopolitical uncertainty. He said the EU will breathe an audible sigh of relief if Labour wins the general election later this year. I think eventually there's going to be a moment when we look at each other across the channel and say, you know what, we are still big and important trading partners, we are still friends and allies, we are cooperating on foreign policy and security, and we need to do more of that. So wouldn't it make sense to have a closer relationship? He said, this is important for the economy and for building alliances in a dangerous world. The Labour frontbencher pointed to conflicts in Ukraine, the Middle East and Sudan, tensions over Taiwan, the threat of climate change, and the risk of a second Donald Trump presidency. We should come together with those who share our common values to defend those values in the face of these threats. The best way to protect your sovereignty is to work with others, he said. The UK's departure from the European Union has had a significant impact on the free movement of students, travellers and workers indeed. And there are consequences for these groups of people. The UK has long been a popular destination for international students, with over 450,000 students from EU countries studying in the country in 2019. After Brexit, UK universities now need to consider the impact of the new immigration system on their ability to attract and retain international students. It very much shifted to China now. The new system made it more difficult for EU students to study in the UK, and students will need to apply for a visa and pay application fees, which could deter some from coming to the UK. And additionally, the UK government has announced that international students will no longer be eligible for student loans or grants. And this could make it more difficult for students from poorer countries to afford a UK education, and not to talk about their families and the new immigration laws now. The impact of Brexit on EU students in the UK is still uncertain in the end, but it's likely that the number of EU students studying in the UK will continue to decline in the years to come. And this could have a significant impact on the UK's higher education sector overall. Prior to Brexit, UK citizens were free to travel to and to live in other EU countries as well. And this was a major benefit for UK travelers who were able to enjoy the benefits of free movement, such as the freedom to work, live, and study in other EU countries. After Brexit, EU citizens will need to apply for a visa to travel to the UK for work and etc. And that makes it more difficult and expensive for EU citizens to do that. And UK citizens need to apply for a visa to work in the 27 EU countries. And the impact of Brexit on free movement is already being felt. And the number of EU visitors to the UK has declined in recent years because they need a passport now, which many Germans, for example, don't even have. And this already had an impact on the UK's tourism industry, which is worth billions of pounds a year. And prior to Brexit, EU citizens were free to work in the UK. That was a major benefit for the UK economy, as it allowed businesses to access a pool of skilled workers from across Europe. After Brexit, EU citizens need to apply for a work visa to work in the UK. And this made it more difficult for EU citizens to do that, and it led to a shortage of skilled workers in some sectors of the British economy there. And the impact of Brexit on the free movement of workers will be felt for quite some time. And it's likely that the number of EU citizens working in the UK will continue to decline in the coming years. And this will indeed still have a significant impact on the UK's economy, particularly in sectors such as hospitality, construction, and care. And Brexit has had a significant impact on the free movement of students, travelers, and workers overall. The new immigration system made it more difficult for EU citizens to study, but also travel and work in the UK. And this had a negative impact on a lot of parts of the UK itself. So we are back to shooting yourself in one foot. Of course, it's still too early to say what the long-term impact of Brexit will be and how hard it will be if this freedom of movement continues. We will see what happens if Labour wins, but it's not what it was when the UK was in the EU. They brought themselves a lot of problems, made it harder for others to come to the UK. And as I said in other videos when I talked about traveling, the majority of Germans, for example, doesn't have a passport. They didn't need one before Brexit. They could just travel with their ID card to the UK. Now they need a passport. And the majority doesn't have that. And they will not pay for an expensive passport instead of their additional to their ID just for a short trip to the UK. Not many will do that. And a passport is quite expensive compared to our ID cards. And with my ID card, I can travel all over the EU and have no problem with that. And there's a lot to see as well. I like cultural tours combined with beaches. So that is the nicest thing to do. But at the moment, I don't have time to travel. It's quite some time ago that I traveled for the last time. But if I would, I would do it in the EU. It's easier. If you want to know something else, the next video is right here in the end screen. I'll see you there. I'll be back.